All right, ladies. So week 7 is in the books, and we had a lot of injuries this week, unfortunately. So in this video today, I'm going to be taking you through my favorite waiver wire picks, who you should be trading for, and what to look forward to next week. So as always, I'm going to start with my quarterbacks and my running backs. Kind of go down the list. So for right now, number 1, I have Javonte Williams. He's been getting a lot of carries these last couple weeks. 14 carries against the strong New Orleans team. 3 receptions, but he's kind of like, as you can tell, he's kind of averaging good receptions, and any reception with the running back, you're kind of good to go. And he's only rostered in 82% of the league, so pick him up if you can. Bo Nix is definitely going to utilize him. Next up, I have Sam Darnold. He's throwing touchdowns. His team's doing well. They just lost to the Lions, so we're gonna see him kind of have a bounce back week. They have a game against the Rams, so Rams have a weak secondary, very vulnerable. So I'd pick him up as well. Next up, I have Tank Bigsby. Obviously, he's kind of taken over that backfield from Travis Etienne. Etienne is battling injuries, so I like him a lot. 26 carries against the strong New England defense. That's what they're known for. 26 carries, 2 touchdowns, 118 yards. Can't be mad at that. And in Carolina, we have Jonathan Brooks hopefully coming back. He's only rostered in 60% of the leagues. Obviously no stats, but promising young dude out of Texas, so I'd pick him up. Caleb Williams. He's kind of getting into that groove where he's kind of figuring it out. He's learning what a quarterback does and who he is as a quarterback. He threw for 4 touchdowns last week, but as you can tell, since the Carolina game, he had a lot of confidence coming into the Jacksonville game. He obviously coming off a bye week against a strong Washington team this week. Maybe don't play him this week, but after that, it's looking pretty strong for him. Not a terrible schedule, not the best schedule, but hey, I liked how he's progressing, so I'd pick him up as well. Next up, we have Bucky Irving. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of injuries this past couple weeks. Monday night, you saw Chris Godwin and Mike Evans go down. So this obviously means a lot for Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, especially against the strong Atlanta defense. Going to be a good pickup for you. He's only registered in 54% of the leagues. Up next, kind of a controversial one, but I like Bo Nix. Bo Nix is kind of very mature. He's running the ball a lot. He's throwing the ball to save targets. He's kind of doing the right things. He's kind of minimizing those interceptions. Five picks for a rookie quarterback. That's really good in my book. He had a 20 points, and then almost 20 points against the Bucks. 3 20-point games, I like that a lot. And he's only registered in 16% of the leagues. I like the dude. Top 15 quarterback, I'd take him. And the infamous Russell Wilson, rostered in 5% of the leagues. Obviously, 1 game played. He threw 2 touchdowns. He carried 3 times for basically 1 yard every time. I'm not a big fan of his, but I can't deny that he has deep threat power. And he has one of the best, deep ball threats in George Pickens, best contested catch ratio. So Russell Wilson, if he does continue to start for the Steelers, which I do think he will, unfortunately, I'd pick him up as well. Next up, I have Jaylen Warren. I think Jaylen Warren is still a threat in the backfield. He did get a lot of carries against the Jets, coming up against kind of a soft New York Giants defense. Obviously, you could tell that Saquon Barkley kind of ripped them apart. But I do like him going forward. All right, so next up we have our wide receivers. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries that just came off. A lot of hamstrings, a lot of dislocated ankles. A lot of, typical mid-season injuries, unfortunately. So first up, I have Jawan Jennings. Ayuk is out for the rest of the season. Deebo Samuel battling pneumonia. Christian McCaffrey obviously still out. May play next week, but I like Jawan Jennings again to have a big games coming up. Next up, I have Khalil Shakir. I know they just signed Amari Cooper, but I think that signing Amari Cooper means more opportunities for Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, which I do have on the list as well, and Dalton Kincaid. It's just going to open up that space for them to work a little bit more freely, kind of get open, and obviously James Cook is going to open up opportunities with the running game as well. I also have Deebo Samuel up here, kind of the 49er duo. I know Deebo's kind of battling pneumonia at the moment. Obviously, he is rostered in 98% of the leagues, but I would consider trading for him, see what you can get for him. Yeah, I think he's a good pickup. I think that he's going to do really well going forward if he does play. I don't hate the pick, and I'm not a big fan of Deebo. Obviously, he's a Niner, but as a Rams fan, I understand that he's a good dude and he's a good player. Like I said before, George Pickens with Russell Wilson, he just is going to be that guy, right? Mike Tomlin has drilled the point that he wants to pass the ball or even have the opportunity to be passing the ball. So George Pickens is that guy. Next up, I have the infamous Dontavian Wicks. Wicks just is that guy that just gets a lot of targets. He's open a lot because of Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Romeo Doubs. Obviously, you know, with those core receivers, you're going to have that guy that just gets open, and that's going to be Wicks. And Jordan Love likes targeting him. He's a big dude. He makes big plays. He's kind of a red zone target. He tends to get touchdowns. When he gets opportunities, they're always touchdowns. Next up, I do have Romeo Doubs. Since that controversy that, hey, is this dude going to play? Does this dude want to be here? He's kind of been lights out. He's kind of doing his job. He's kind of laying low. You know, he's not kind of drawing attention to himself and who he is as a person and who he is as a player, as a teammate. So I like Romeo Doubs. Next up, I have Tutu Atwell. I like Tutu a lot. I think he's gonna be going forward. He is that main guy right now. But with Cooper Kupp coming back, hypothetically, right? That's what they say. I like Tutu going forward. He's gonna get a lot of targets. He's gonna get a lot of touchdowns. Cooper Kupp is gonna open up those opportunities for him. I have Keon Coleman, like I said, coming up next. Amari Cooper is just one of these two dudes are gonna get opportunities to make more plays outside of maybe Dalton Kincaid, but one of these dudes are gonna be good. So if you could pick one up, kind of gamble, it's a 50-50 shot. One of those dudes are gonna come up big next coming games. Next up, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, he may be coming back. Obviously, he may be getting traded. There's rumors out there that he might get traded, so kind of got to play those odds and kind of say, hey, you know what? If he does get traded, he's obviously gonna go to a big team. He has that big contract anyway, so he doesn't need the money. It's gonna be somewhere where they want him to win, to have him to win. Could be the Bucks with their two stars going out. Probably not, but you know, if he's a dude you could trade for, and I'd definitely try to get him. Next up, I have Brian Thomas Jr. I love this kid, man. He's getting targets. He's getting touchdowns. He's doing his job. Christian Kirk is still helping him, you know, kind of get the attention away from him. He's a young dude. Tall, fast, physical, aggressive. He's getting targets. He's getting touchdowns. 86% rostered. I don't know how that happens. This dude is flying under the radar like crazy. I'd go get him. Next up, we have the most inconsistent and hardest position to pick a player out of, tight ends. First, I'm going to start off with Sam Laporta. Obviously, he's rostered in 96% of the leagues, but he just hasn't been that guy. He's not the same guy from last year. He's getting a lot of attention. Jared Goff just isn't looking that way. Obviously, Jared and Dan Campbell's plan is to get quick passes off, use that speed, and they're just not utilizing Sam Laporta right now. But I would buy low into him. I know people are looking to get rid of him. They're very disappointed to use a high draft pick on him. So get what you can for him. Next up, I have Dalton Kincaid. I like this dude a lot, man. I think he's really good. I think Josh trusts him a lot. Obviously, he's kind of battling with Dawson Knox with that tight end number 1 position. But I like him a lot. I think he's still going to go do well going forward with Amari Cooper being there. Kind of takes the attention off of him. And then, man, this kid, man, Brock Bowers. You can't really say enough about this dude. He's consistent. He does really well. He has strong hands. He's fast, physical, aggressive. I think if you can get him See what you can get him for. He's just going to be that guy going forward. Devontae Adams obviously out. Jacoby Myers really isn't a presence. There is questions to ask about the Raiders quarterback. They just keep getting hurt. Obviously, they benched Gardner Minshew, but Aiden got hurt. So Gardner's going to be looking for a target that's consistent and can catch the ball. So Brock Bowers is that guy. Next up, another dude that kind of flies under the radar is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is kind of coming to his own. He's coming back to those days where he was a Cowboy. He's obviously experienced. CJ Stroud looks his way a lot. Obviously, Nico Collins being out. Tank Dell got like 0 receptions and 0 yards last game, so I'd pick up Dalton. Next up is kind of a slam dunk pick for me. David Njoku. Obviously, Amari Cooper gone. Deshaun Watson's gone. So they're going to have a lot of inconsistency in the quarterback position, but going forward, I like in young quarterbacks to have a good relationship with their tight ends because they are kind of not always open, but they're a big target, easy to spot, easier to hit, I should say. So I like Njoku going forward. Next up, Cade Otton. Dude is just good. He flies under the radar, like I said, a lot. 10 targets last game, 8 catches, 100 yards. Baker Mayfield is that guy that loves his tight end. He kind of involves them in the game a lot. And with Chris Godwin being out and Mike Evans being out indefinitely, you're going to have a lot of play from the backfield, obviously, and maybe some play from some receivers. But the main guy from going forward for me is going to be Cade Otton. And 42% of the leagues, I'd get him. Tucker Kraft, he's good, man. This kid's also good. Obviously, he had 4 targets last game, 3 receptions, 33 yards, 1 touchdown. But as you can tell, there's a lot of inconsistency in his game. But you could tell when this dude plays, Jordan Love does look his way. And for that reason, I'm in on him. Next up, I have Pat Freiermuth, top 10 tight end. He didn't have a great game last week, but I think that since it was Russell Wilson's first game, they were looking to throw the ball to Pickens because Pickens has just voiced his frustrations with Justin Fields being the quarterback and him not getting targets or much playing time as far as getting the ball. But statistically, it's proven that Russell Wilson does love his tight ends as well. I think last year with the Broncos, he had that dude, Greg Dulcich, and with Russell Wilson, he popped off as well. So I'm going to take the chance on Pat Freiermuth. Like I said in previous videos, I like streaming defenses. And some of these may be harder to get than others. But I'm going to start off with the Denver Broncos. Number 1 in fantasy. Only rostered in 83% of leagues. They obviously had strong, easy games in the beginning. You know, this one was surprising against the Bucs. They obviously had a good game against the Saints. They obviously have an easier game coming up with the Panthers. So if you could pick this one up, this is an easy buy-in for me. Bo Nix is coming to his own, like I said earlier. So the defense is not going to have too much. They're going to have a lot of rest going forward if Bo Nix continues to keep that offense on the field. All right, next up I have the Commanders. Dan Quinn, obviously a defensive-minded coach. You know, they're having hit-or-miss games. But 18 points, they had 2 pick sixes, I think, or 1 pick six, and they just didn't give the Panthers any hope in that game. But, you know, against the Bears, against the Giants, against Steelers, they have a pretty favorable games going forward, and I think they're a strong defense. I don't hate them at all. Next up, obviously, we have the number 2 defense in the Minnesota Vikings. They play my Rams this week. And obviously, I'm going to be honest here, the Rams have a terrible O-line. Brian Flores is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. He's just getting things right. You know, they came up short against the Lions, but they kind of held them down a little bit, you know. And for that reason, I'm buying them in this week. 69% rostered in leagues. I don't know how that happens when they have such a good defense. You watch them and they're like, man, they're not giving the opposition offense anything. So I like them a lot going forward. This one I would stream as well. Maybe not keep. I don't love them. But against the Seahawks, obviously the Seahawks are a pretty good offensive team. But I think DK Metcalf got hurt. Probably not too serious, but for that reason, I'm taking them against the Seahawks. Then they have Miami. You know Miami's situation. Hopefully Tua comes back. Hopefully he's healthy. But for this week, I'm taking the Bills. All right, boys. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. That is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.